I'm Blue, and today I would like to show you how to color and render hair like this. If you haven't seen the first video, that one covers how to understand and actually draw hair, and this video covers how to color and render it. You can use this coloring and rendering technique on any art program. Here are some programs that I've used with it before. All the brushes I've used for each of these programs will be linked in the description, but you can feel free to use your own brushes. The brushes you'll need is an airbrush, so a soft round brush, a hard brush, like a pen brush or something that you can use to create hard outlines, the lasso tool, a painting brush of your choice, and then a texture brush. First, fill in the base color with a neutral grey color. So I like to outline it and then just bucket it. The reason people start with this grey base color is it allows them to use something called a clipping mask. This means any layer above the grey base color that is set to a clipping mask will only stay within the solid shape. You can add many clipping masks to one layer, so it's great for shading. Basically, no painting outside of the lines. Add a clipping mask to this grey layer and add your base color to the top. I'm going to go for this red-brown color because the character I'm coloring has like this color hair. But this technique works for any color hair. So pick the base color that we just put down and go over to your color wheel. Now shift your base color down in hue, so the one on the outside, shift it down a little bit. I'm going to go towards purple and then shift the saturation down. So the part in the middle, shift that down slightly towards like the more saturated darker colors. This will be your shadow tones. But since we shifted it down, it will look a bit colorful and add a bit of depth. In my previous video, I told you that the base that the hair sits on is the cylinder, so it's round. Because of this, we're going to shade it like a cylinder. So grab the airbrush and the same dark color we just picked, and wherever the light source is, softly shade the opposite sides using the new color with the airbrush. Think of it like a cylinder, so you can see these are different types of cylinders with different types of shadings. I also like to airbrush a bit of the top of the head since there is like a little bit of a lift where the hair is, and it just adds a bit of fun dimension. Now grab your painting brush and the same color. If you watched the first video, then you'll know what hair flow is. This is basically just the line that the hair flows in. Follow the flow with your strokes. Use small triangle shapes that follow the direction of the strands. Don't worry too much about getting it perfect right now. I normally just like blop them down like this because I'm going to go in and render it later. So because the colors are the same as the gradients, which we added with the airbrush earlier, it'll look like a soft extended version, almost blended in. So it kind of like comes out from like the same color down below. So once I'm like almost done with this, I want a darker color, so I repeat the first step. I change the hue slightly down to purple, and then I take the saturation down a bit more, and now I have this really dark color. And basically what I try and do is in each strand I add one or two of this dark color. I don't really have many rules on how I add it, I just kind of eyeball where it should be. But if you want like maybe something more solid to follow, wherever the hair crosses over each other and there might be a dark point, you can add it. So next we can do something fun, which I really like to do. Grab the skin color or the blush color of your character and lightly airbrush it over where the skin makes contact with the hair. Make sure that this is a bigger brush and it's not very small because you kind of want it to blend in with everything around it. So if your character has darker skin, use the undertone. So every skin tone, no matter how dark or light, will have an undertone, so either pink, red, orange, or green. And set this up to a little bit of a higher one and then add it to the thing. You can see it's like a little bit too bright, but when you lower the opacity, it's going to look very nice. This technique also works for lighter hair or darker skin. I do not use the original darker skin for the lighter hair. I pick one of the undertones that the skin shows and then I'll add that to it. It's basically just thinking of like the blood cells kind of flowing through the hair. You kind of want to keep this warm tone or cool tone, whichever tone the skin is giving. Then using the same color, I like to make a new layer and then wherever the highlights would be. So I will connect it with this blurry part over here and I will like blend it outwards. See, it creates a fun highlight that way and everything is almost connected now. Using the same light peach color we just had, or whichever color you have, with the soft brush, start adding it to the places of the hair that's furthest away from the viewer. So I really like if this color is very pastel, because I really like things in the distance to be very like almost faded, but I really wanted to blend in with the other colors I have on the hair already. So I add it to where it's further and then I turn down the opacity. Then making another layer above that, I'll grab a blue, purple or turquoise, or all of them at the same time, depends on how I want. I normally make sure that the saturation of these colors is pretty high, so it's very colorful. Then I re-add it again to all the parts that I just added that light peach color to. Then I just add it to all the parts that are further in the distance. But I try not to cover the entire peach color because like that would defeat the purpose. I think this adds depth and fun color variations. You can go crazy with the extra tones, just don't overdo it. A little sparkle goes a long way. Now finally set your line art to multiply and then change the color to a dark purple. So I really like this maroon color. Then I use the darkest color from the shading and I trace over the inner lines. And then I do that with the skin color as well. Remember how we put like that peach color across everything? Everywhere where that is, I'm just going to add a red tint to it. And then grab this red color again and above everything, so even above the line art and all the layers, I'll make a new layer and I will take the airbrush, brush it over the skin and then set this layer to overlay and turn down the opacity. I think this makes the colors very saturated and fun to work with. Since we're on blending modes, then I'll make a new layer. I'll grab a bright red and I will outline some of the parts. This is almost like subsurface scattering, but not in the correct way. I just think it looks cool, so I added and it adds some red and I really like to work with red. So then for a final shading step, if I feel like it, since like this is more of like kind of a base shading, I will grab a purple color with the multiply tool and I will outline where the shading is and then I'll add that if I need it to like have more depth to it. But normally when I'm coloring like simple portraits, this is not necessary. But if you see it in these kind of portraits, that is what I do. It's just a multiply layer with like a purple color. So now we can get into rendering. So merge all the layers and duplicate the finished one. So you have two. So one will be the base layer, which will be your original sketch, and the second one will be the one you make changes on. So any changes you make, you can look back to the original one and you can decide whether you like it or not. Trust me, this will come in handy as you go, because sometimes the rendering can get really messy and you just don't like it. So it's always nice to go back and be able to change it. Now take the painting brush of your choice and color pick as you paint. You want to pick up the colors that you've already laid out. You don't want to add any more colors in. So when you're laying out all the colors, you really want to make sure that you like the way it looks, because when you go in for rendering, you don't want to pick any more colors from the color wheel. You want to trust that everything on the canvas is naturally going to work together on its own. So grab the painting brush of your choice and start color picking from the canvas. And then try cleaning up the shapes. So I have a full video of how I render over here if you would like to see. But for simple explanation, when I'm rendering, I'm thinking about the shape and then the values. So what shape am I trying to show? So if it's like a circle or a square, and then what is the lightest, the middle, and the darkest values, so I can make this shape look the way it needs to. I hope this example like helps, because it's kind of hard to explain without showing. This can be a bit hard at first, but the more you keep practicing, you'll be able to see the values a lot easier. So when you're rendering, make sure your lines, or like your rendering lines, are following the flow lines that I discussed in the previous video. Color pick from the base that we've already put down, since all the colors on here are meant to look good together. So what I do is I keep long strokes and I just clean up as I go. I am looking for the different values, so mid, light, and then the darkest. And I'm just trying to create interesting shapes that almost sort of make sense. So one of the things that I kind of like to do is, if there's the base color, I like to put the darkest color at the top of the strand, and then I put the darkest color at the bottom of the strand. In the middle, I will have the highlight, and then I will almost blend the two colors together. So then I'll have some darker colors in between the middle colors, lightest colors in between the darkest colors. Almost kind of layering it on top of each other in like a circle form. I just think this looks really interesting. I also really like to outline some of the pieces. So you can see I outlined like this highlight here with this dark red color that I found on the base color that I've already put down. So I will outline here and there, and then I will also outline the strand since there is no line art, but sometimes something kind of blends in with each other. So I'll just grab the darkest color on the canvas, which is that purple, and now I'm just outlining the strands so they contrast against the skin. I just do this to each strand that I see on the head here. A lot of the times I will do this and then I'd redo it again and again, because sometimes when I render it doesn't look the way I want it to, or I over render and I add too many strands and it becomes distracting. So that's what I did here, and this is why we had the copy pasted layer. So there's two, so I just got rid of it and I was like, okay, I'm going to start again, and I did that again and again until I liked the final result. Use a hard brush, a textured brush, or even the painting brush, whichever one you want. Texture doesn't have to be uniform, it just has to make a fun pattern. The way to make texture work for you though is you have to understand in what shape does the thing flow. So like if the hair flows like this, you want the textures to follow it. I like to add scribbles, little stripes, or like, you know, little hair strands here and there. I think it like adds really fun textures. There's not a lot of rules to it. I also really like to grab a brush that has like a watercolor outlining, and then I just pick the colors and I blob it down here and there. It adds like this really fun texture. I don't really know. I also sometimes like to grab this like brushy tool. A lot of people use it nowadays. Thanks to Sam Does Art, I think he originally used it. But you can grab that. I like to grab it with like the middle range colors. I put it over, I set it to multiply, and then I turn down the opacity, and I think it adds like not too much texture, but just a little bit of texture. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to watch the first video, it will be linked here. It'll just basically go over all of this, how like to draw it with anatomy and stuff like that. I want to say thank you to my Patreons and my channel members. You guys help me a lot. It really like supports me and helps me continue doing this. And then I again want to thank all the fan art. I don't know how many there's going to be this video, since last video was like last week, and I don't think that many people will draw that much within a week. Yeah, I'm going to try uploading more frequently. Next week's video will be about like skipping line art, because I realize I hate doing line art and maybe people would like to skip line art like I do. And then the week after that, I'm thinking either maybe an anatomy video or another rendering video. I don't know. I'll see what it feels like till then. I also have a second channel over here. So this is where all my story times and videos about my characters will be, since I am trying to separate the two from each other. Yeah, so if you're interested to hear more about me or my thoughts on shit, you can go check that out, but if not, you can just stay here. Okay, good luck with your art, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Also, feel free to ask any questions. I will reply with a short explaining your question if I need to. I did this in the last video. People asked me how to draw curly hair, and I made a short. This is over here. Yeah, okay.